Change your thinking. Change your life. Power of positive thinking. Story 1000 words. Arjun sat on the edge of his bed, staring blankly at the cracked wall of his small room. The early morning sunlight tried to sneak through the dusty window, but even its golden warmth couldn't reach his heart. He had failed his business for the third time in 2 years. Every plan he made seemed to collapse before it could stand. His friends had moved on to better jobs, stable lives, and growing families, while he remained stuck, jobless, hopeless, and filled with doubt. Maybe I'm just not meant for success, he whispered to himself, his voice breaking with exhaustion. No matter what I do, things never work out for me. His mother, who had been quietly making tea in the next room, overheard him. She walked in, holding 2 cups, and sat beside him. "You know, Arjun," she said gently, handing him a cup, "life doesn't change until your thinking does." Arjun frowned. "Thinking? How can thinking change anything, Ma? I've worked hard. I've tried everything." She smiled softly. "Do you remember the garden behind our old house?" He nodded, unsure where she was going. "When you were a child," she continued, "you planted 2 kinds of seeds, sunflowers and thorns. You watered both every day. The sunflowers grew tall and beautiful, while the thorns grew sharp and painful. You couldn't blame the soil. It simply gave life to whatever you planted. The mind works the same way. Whatever thoughts you plant in it, it grows." Her words echoed in his heart long after she left the room. Whatever you plant grows. That night, unable to sleep, Arjun began thinking about what he had been planting in his mind all these years. He realized he had been watering only fear, failure, and self-doubt. His thoughts were filled with what he couldn't do, not what he could. The next morning, Arjun decided to try something different. Instead of starting the day with complaints, he stood before the mirror and said quietly, "I am capable. I can learn. I can change." It felt strange, almost silly, but he kept doing it every morning. Began reading about positive thinking and mindset. One quote struck him deeply. "You don't see the world as it is. You see it as you are." Slowly, Arjun realized that success wasn't about luck or talent, it was about attitude. He started small. When his friend offered him a small delivery job for a local bakery, he took it, even though his pride resisted. Every big journey starts with small steps, he reminded himself. In the beginning, things were hard. He woke up early, rode his old noisy scooter through rain and heat, and faced rude customers. But instead of complaining, he began to look for something positive in every situation. When someone shouted at him, he told himself, "They're having a bad day, not me." When he was tired, he thought, "At least I'm moving forward." Slowly, his energy changed. His boss noticed his cheerful attitude and promoted him to handle bakery supplies. A few months later, when a new branch opened, Arjun was trusted to manage it. But life tested him again. One evening, as he was locking up the bakery, he got a call his mother had suffered a mild heart attack. He rushed to the hospital, his mind spinning. The old Arjun would have broken down, filled with fear and negativity. But the new Arjun took a deep breath and told himself, worry won't help her, strength will. He stayed calm, supported his mother, and prayed with faith, not fear. Thankfully, she recovered quickly. One night, while sitting beside her hospital bed, his mother smiled and said, "See, Arjun, you changed your thoughts, and now life is changing too." Her words made him realize how far he'd come, not just in his work, but in his spirit. He was no longer the man who saw problems everywhere, he saw possibilities. Months later, Arjun decided to start his bakery business again, but this time with a new mindset. He named it Sunflower Bakes, inspired by the garden story his mother had told him. He didn't have much money, but he had belief. He began with small steps, baking cookies from home, taking orders online, and delivering them himself. He smiled at every customer, no matter how tired he was. When mistakes happened, instead of blaming fate, he looked for lessons. One day, an influential food blogger ordered from his bakery. She loved the taste and shared it online. Within a week, orders flooded in. Arjun's tiny bakery became one of the most popular spots in the town. Standing inside his busy shop one afternoon, watching happy customers, Arjun couldn't help but smile. His journey wasn't about luck. It was about transformation, not of his business, but of his thoughts. He realized that life doesn't change when circumstances do. It changes when you do. A few months later, a young boy named Ravi came to work at Arjun's bakery. Nervous and shy, he often made mistakes and apologized constantly. One day, Arjun placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Ravi, don't worry about what you can't do yet. Focus on what you can. When your thinking grows, everything else follows." Ravi nodded, smiling faintly, the same way Arjun had once smiled at his mother years ago. From that day forward, Arjun made it his mission to spread this message wherever he went to his workers, his customers, and even strangers who came to him for advice. He would always say, "Your thoughts are seeds. Choose them wisely. If you plant doubt, you'll harvest failure. But if you plant faith, patience, and positivity, life will bloom." Years later, when he was invited to give a motivational talk at a local college, Arjun stood on stage and looked at hundreds of students staring back at him. He smiled and began his story, not about his bakery or success, but about a cracked wall, a tired morning, and a mother's simple wisdom. He ended with these words, "Your life is not determined by your circumstances, but by your mindset. When I thought I was a failure, I lived like one. When I believed I could change, life started opening doors for me." Positive thinking isn't magic, it's a choice. Every single day, you can choose faith over fear, hope over doubt, gratitude over complaint. And when you do, the world begins to reflect that light back to you. The audience stood up in applause, but Arjun didn't need it. The true reward was knowing that maybe, just maybe, someone in that crowd would walk out and plant a new seed of thought, one that could change their life forever. Because that's the real power of positive thinking. When you change your thinking, you truly change your life.